Welcome, welcome, welcome to Conversations with My Cuz. I am Shayla Shay.
It's me, your girl Michelle with the one L.
And I'm brother love, EJ, Big Rod.
Hey, Ra.
What's up,
What's
y'all?
going on? What's going on?
What's going on? What's up, ladies? How y'all feeling?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
Feeling
I
all right. Feeling all
can't
right.
call it. Just had the whole week with my boy. So right quick, I got a phone call on Monday. Hey daddy, I got a big surprise. What happened? I got the whole week out. Come get me. So,
that
so we
is a
You didn't expect that.
Hey, so I went and got him. I picked him up on Tuesday. We was riding around hot board Thursday. I said, you know what? Let's go out there to the American Afro American National Museum, the
Uh-huh.
Smithsonian in
oh
DC.
nice.
So we rode out there. We was watching the Emmett Till movie.
Mm-hmm.
So a friend
Oh,
of mine
okay.
told me that the exhibit was out there. So
Okay.
we actually rode out there Friday night. We jumped in the truck, got some food together. The next thing you know, we was rolling. Stayed in the
Wow.
hotel. We had a really good time. But I stopped to see that image. The Emmett Till exhibit is pretty emotional. It really puts you. It's the original casket because they exhumed his body
Yeah.
and to see if it was really him with a DNA. That original casket, the family donated to the museum
Mm-hmm.
Oh
and
wow.
they
Okay.
refurbished it and they put all the lining and stuff. And I don't know if you saw the movie, but they had him closed, but they had his face open. And
Yeah.
see what they did
Right.
to him. That they had that case in there, and they also had the original picture of him,
Mm,
of the guy up against. So it was,
yeah.
and they had like a funeral going. So it was pretty touching. It was kind of crazy. So
It
that's
is really a hard thing to see. I mean,
yeah,
it just kind of, even though it was a while ago, it really kind of gives you that whole feel of what it must have been like to really actually be in that space and see that young man in the condition that he was.
Right.
yeah,
And that in itself is heartbreaking. And the fact that we're still dealing with things like that, right?
yeah,
Because
Yeah.
what are we talking about? What just happened
yeah,
to Kyrie,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Outside of the machines, etc. I'm
Yeah.
sure because of what they did to him, that he was severely beaten as well.
Right.
And the
Very similar thing.
bad part about that was even our own people.
And that to me is makes it even more hurtful that it was
Yes.
it was us.
Right.
Right. That
And I know you
same,
guys said that y'all didn't see the videos, but I did watch the video,
I
and
saw some of it.
the way that they just was around him, his body, just making jokes about, like, it was just unbelievable. And I understand about three of the guys, they were from the fraternity, the Omegas. I think
Wow.
three of
Mm-hmm.
them were Qs. Yeah,
Two dogs.
yeah, three
Yeah.
of them Qs. And that fraternity, what do they stand for? And
You
they
know,
went against everything that fraternity stands for. Everything.
yeah,
Absolutely.
when I found out about the story, it's interesting to me because my first thing said, boy, every white person in America is gonna be like, yeah, get them.
Yeah,
I've been
Mm-hmm.
jumping on us about this. I'm telling
police brutality. Yeah,
they're gonna be you're gonna go check out Fox News Network. It's gonna be some ignorant person that's gonna say it's not only the white people that beat the police, it's the black too.
it's
And that's what I was really, really upset about when I actually thought about it. You're gonna see the comparison that's coming next.
It's
yeah.
so
And I mean,
funny.
oh, go ahead,
Go.
Sam. Sorry.
I had two different conversations with people, and it was really interesting how we um, take that whole situation and absorb it. The first thing that the person said to me was, after saying this happened, blah, 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 they were like, I hate to be this kind of a person,
Hmm.
but it's amazing to me how quickly they were fired and then judged. And then, you know, um, everything went down so quickly. And it's like, is it because it's for black police officers? Right. And I
And
was
that's what
like,
I was gonna say too. I was gonna say the same exact thing, that people were saying that things happened in such a fast manner that they want to compare it if it was the white, you know, how it would have went down. But we see it firsthand. I mean, either way, no matter how it went down, they need to be arrested. But even still, I mean, I guess you can make those comparisons.
Yeah.
Another person that I spoke to said, another person, a father, said that his son called him and was saying to him, you see what I'm talking about, because his father is one to be like, the police are not your enemy. And he said to him, I keep trying to say to you that it doesn't matter whether they're black or white. If it's a police officer, that is what they're doing to us. And don't expect me to be able to have a different conversation with you, because look at that. And that was
it's
really
unfortunate
sad.
now. And it's sad because now the youth that's coming up, they're seeing it's like, dang, that's one of he looks like me.
Right.
Yep.
You know, and I really want to put this out there though, because every officer isn't a bad officer. You know,
No, I mean, we know police officers that
right.
that are not.
And a lot of them, you know what I'm saying? A lot of them, you know, it's scary out there. And sometimes I just don't think a lot of officers that actually take the job, they're not built for the job, and they really don't know. And sometimes they send officers in to patrol certain neighborhoods and certain things, and their whole life changes because they've never seen nothing like that. And I also think about the I was going over this with a friend, the 60 college credits and all of that stuff that they actually detailed to put on the police officers. That's why I believe that's when you've seen the change. When they start implementing college educations and stuff like that, now you don't have the average neighborhood people becoming officers, and they be people from a totally another lifestyle, a totally another neighborhood. And this is why I think a lot of the times these things happen too. These cops panic. And you know, it's crazy in the training. They need to be trained.
And part of it is, what are you training them for, right? You need to be
Right.
able to train them mentally, emotionally. There's a lot that goes into that, because I can't imagine getting up every day and thinking, is this a day I'm going to have to fight for my life? And I'm
Right.
immersed in an environment that is continuously violent, right? How do you get up and not feel like you need to be able to defend your life? Now, does that morph into what we saw? It should never. But there has to be someone that is accountable to the situation, that is able to say, stop. And why is it that everyone seems to, at least with those four, didn't have something to say, hey, that's enough. That's enough.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. The comment says they need to do periodic psychological evaluations on them. Different circumstances can cause them to have forms of PTSD without being diagnosed. And I can agree with that. I can agree with that 100%. It's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate because it keeps happening.
Yeah.
It keeps happening, and it's unfortunate. So, you know, rest in peace to the young King Tyree, and sending out our prayers and condolences to his family.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So
that's a somber note, right?
It really is, man. It really is.
It's hard to come back from that. Yeah.
We don't usually have these kind of moments, so it's even hard for us to even figure out.
Serious, right?
Yeah, right.
Right?
We can be. Oh man, that thing just brought me down.
Let me take me a drink right quick.
Right, we didn't toast, right? I have tea.
We did not toast, but I also want to send some love and condolences to one of our best fans, Keisha and Kenya. They always front and center. They lost their stepfather today, actually. So he probably won't be in the comments. So we just want to send some love and condolences out to the
Key is always our
family.
Apollo
Yeah,
lady.
you know, Key is our Apollo lady. She's right here, front and center, first person in the chat, and that's my best friend. So yeah, sending love to them.
Too.
Rest in peace to Mr. Donald.
Mr. Donald, yeah, man. He fought a long, hard battle. He really did.
Yeah.
Well, Ra, I wanted to give you, which is difficult for me to do, but to give you the floor, right?
Because
I had a conversation with someone recently.
I don't know how this is gonna go, but since this is a let me ask, this is sort of a let me ask my cousin question.
Yes, it sort of is. It sort of is. You gonna do it?
So
yeah. Listen, I got a
I'm
promotion, y'all.
I'm gonna
I
do
got
it.
a promotion. I'm on TV.
So, do you know what time it is?
Do you know what time it is? It is time for Let Me Ask My Cuz. So, Cuz, I got a question for you. I really want to get your opinion about something. I had a conversation with someone recently that I thought was really interesting. We was talking about these young men today and just like the young women and dating, right? And he called it what he called it was the Steve Urkel effect. And he was talking about how a lot of these young men out here that tend to be on the right side, the nicer guys, the ones that's really trying to do something with their life, have a really hard time dating, getting women, talking to women, having women even, not just check for them, but want to be with them. And
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about that. Me and Shell was talking about this a little bit before we brought it to you. So sorry to bump,
Wait, Shelly,
just to catch you off
since
guard.
our guest is in the background, can we bring him in for this?
He could come.
Yeah. So, him and Rod can give us some male perspective on this. And I think that'll be a dope thing since he's already here. So,
all right.
I hope you don't mind we bringing him on early. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a friend to the show. We're going to bring him on. So we want to welcome Brother Amir to the show.
Hey, Amir.
Welcome, Amir. Thank you.
I don't know if you me ask how you doing.
Right.
I'm doing wonderfully. How are all of you? Yes. Happy New Year to everybody. I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday season.
Yeah.
So
yes, absolutely. So we just snatched you out the back. So I said,
I know.
I don't know if you were
listening to.
You heard a little bit about the beginning of what I was saying, right?
Yes.
So this is for both you and Ron. Y'all could just talk about this. So what the brother was saying to me is that a lot of these young men that he sees, right, they suffer from the nicer ones, the ones that's really trying to do things with their life and really kind of be on track. They suffer with not getting girls. And he just was kind of real blunt with it. Like, they're not really getting any because these women that are out here the good women want the bad guys. The bad girls want the bad guys. And a lot of them are just not getting any play at all. And it's unfortunate, but, and what I was saying to him is, all right, so what does the good guy do? What does the good guy do in that situation? How does, whose mindset do we need to fix? Right. And what are we doing about it? Because really, them the ones that really need to be flourishing, if you ask me. So I just wanted to get y'all opinion. Is it true? Y'all feel like that's the way things are? And what's going on with these young men and these young women out here today?
You want to go first, Rob, or you want me to go first?
I'm gonna let you go first.
Okay. He's gonna let you go first.
You know what I gotta say.
No,
don't start.
Well, I mean, I think the first thing we have to take into account is we live in a world where, technically speaking, everything that is supposedly wrong is seen as right, and what is right is seen as wrong. So that's the first thing we got to take off the table. And that just goes across the board. It doesn't make a difference if you're a young person or old person.
Okay.
But to that young man in particular, what I would tell him is stay the course. One of the things that I found, because I was one of those guys who probably was in the same position he was coming up, seemed to be a nice guy and didn't always seem to fit the bill, as they would say, for what ladies were looking for, quote unquote, or whatever. And what tends to happen is, as time goes on, to the chagrin of some of you ladies, after sometimes maybe going that route and dealing with the gentleman who is a little more edgy and things of that magnitude, you find out that maybe edgy isn't really the lane you want to be in, but it takes some time to to get off of that road for some ladies. And I think that the biggest thing that they're up against now is, obviously, with the advent or with the addition of all of these apps, whether they be Facebook, Instagram, and whatever other apps these young people are using, again, like I said, there's certain ideologies that are being pushed way more than others. So, for instance, everything is, I need a 6-figure man, or I need these kinds of parameters and these kinds of things.
Mhm.
And the reality of it all is that's a small percentage of who and what the world really represents. Most guys, good, bad, indifferent, may fall into a specific category as far as the amount of money they make and even as far as the kind of guy that they are. But because that's not necessarily talked about on a constant basis, it's in the background. So then ladies don't get the opportunity to look and see like, oh my God, it's a nice guy. He's got a normal job. Maybe he just works in an office, or he's an office manager, or whatever the case may be. He's a garbage man, whatever. It's not sexy. So I don't want it because it's not sexy. Even though this is a man who clearly has his business, acumen in order. He's obviously making money. He's taking care of himself. He's handling his bills and all the things that should be the box that need to be checked.
Okay.
Where the edginess comes into play and could be a good thing or bad thing is, well, and you ladies may attest to this or may not attest to this. I need somebody who's going to protect me, and so forth and so on. You only need protection when you're putting yourself in situations where you need protection. If most of us would just take a moment and go, hey, you know what? I'm out and about. The world as it stands is a beautiful place. As long as I look for the beauty in that place, then that eliminates all of that. But too many of us want to show off. I want to prove stuff to everybody. I say this all the time. This is no disrespect to you ladies in particular, or any other lady for that matter. But I think that we live in a world now where being in a relationship is a proving ground. It's like going to Great Adventures. You got the t-shirt, you got the visor, and you feel good about yourself. But that's not what it should be, because technically speaking, as far as relationships go, it should be two complete people who then complement each other. We've been taught he or she completes me. No, they don't. They complement you. You're supposed to come in completed. And because a lot of us aren't doing that, because a lot of us don't understand that concept, then we have young men such as the one who, approached you and said, hey, this is what I'm kind of dealing with out here in these streets.
Where do you think that breakdown comes from in the relationship between young men and young women? And because for me, it's about a lot of them don't want to be married. They want to kind of float around and, just not actually link up with someone in a mental and emotional way. They just want to have that somebody to be able to say, I got me a nice looking guy. I got me a really pretty woman on my, on my side for that moment. But, where does that breakdown come from?
Well, a lot of that breakdown now at this particular stage of the game comes from the fact that, and this is, again, speaking generally, not individually, a lot of us aren't healed. A lot of us have been in and out of love at various stages of our life. You were in love in grade school. The little boy used to pull your hair, used to punch
His
your
name was Sean.
He was in love with you. You was in love with him, but you just didn't know what love was at that, at that stage. Then maybe somewhere in junior high or high school, something else came along. See? But the point is, you go through those phases, and what happens is a lot of times we don't take the time after those phases are over to really look at what happened and what was good, what was bad. And then do we need to keep some of that stuff, or do we need to delete it, or do we need to, do some augmentation there to make it better? And we don't do that. Men and women give each other some of the worst advice. Guys, first time, we hear our boy broke with somebody, get with somebody new, son. There's some women out here. And you ladies do the same thing. It's other men. Why are you? You need to take a break, and get your life together. Figure out, who you are, figure out what really, you like, don't like, and then come back or get back into the game and see what's out there and see, what avenues and maneuvers you need to make.
That only works if you are trying to be in a relationship, if you want to be with somebody on that deep level, to me. Sorry, Rod, you got something to say?
Yeah, let him jump on in.
I'm going to go totally left, though. I understand what you say is, but I believe it starts in the home.
Okay.
And I believe it starts in the home is because, especially in our age group, maybe a little younger, a lot of men weren't in the home. Okay. So growing up as young women, you actually didn't get a chance to see what that nice guy really represented. A lot of the parents had, a lot of the mothers had men that we probably never met because they don't want men over their children. But you hear mamas going through things that's happening, this, that, and other. Remember, what's abnormal when you're young could really become normal when you get older, because it takes you a minute to get to understand it. So if you don't see a man loving you, nurturing you, even giving you the time, then you don't. That might look lame to you. It might look like it's something foreign
because that's not what you're
because
familiar.
that's
not familiar
that's
to
not
you.
what the everyday norm is. And
Right.
then the position of the men that we had ahead of us, they take on women was just totally different. Then it was more of I'm providing, I'm doing this, and that's it. No matter who I'm with, no matter what I'm doing, that is the old school way. Men having 3 different families, things like that, and now it becomes attractive because that's all that you know. So here comes a guy wanting to give you some flowers. You ain't never seen your mama get no flowers. You understand what I'm saying? So, so at the same time, is that we don't know. And then I think with us growing up as men, we try to be the nice guy, give you some flowers or some juju beans after you get hit over the head with the flowers a couple times. You're gonna throw your Timbs on and bring your jeans down, and you're gonna start hollering. So and we do what we do as especially young men. You do it to get the girls. Like if you ever look at the old groups like New Edition, why was you singing? I was singing to get the girls.
Right.
So a lot of the things is, even like when we grew up, like everybody in the hood sold drugs at one point or the other. If you want to hand to hand, whatever it is, that really wasn't because you had to do it. That was because that was the cool thing to do, and that's what the girls was into.
So, and they made a couple dollars.
Yeah, and but really, because if you think about it, where we come from, a lot of we wasn't poverty stricken like that.
Right.
No,
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Like you would go to other neighborhoods and be like, God damn, like. So at the same time is we do it for the girls, but if the girls don't see that behavior, then it's not normal to them. So now you're lame, and I think that's what really happens.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense, but the saying the nice guys finish last. And like you guys, both of you were touching on the fact that, what's nice to us is like, he's corny. Like, I don't want to talk to him. I want to talk to him because look at him. He got the swag. So, he's a total jerk. Mm-hmm. And the nice guys over there looking crazy don't even know how to hold the conversation, stuttering and carrying on. We're like, get out of here. I don't even want to talk to you. So
that'll be the one to sustain you for your life, and you don't even know it.
You don't even know that we don't. And again, what Rashay was saying, culturally or how we grew up affects that thought process. Because if you don't see it in the household, if your father maybe wasn't such the nice guy, or you didn't see him treat your mother in a certain type of way, what would you look for? You're looking for somebody that's like your dad.
Right.
Or for some of us who weren't in the household, dad wasn't there. So we didn't have any example of what a nice guy was.
Right. And I've made that point that before we've talked about that I didn't grow up with a lot of my friends having father figures in their household. Yeah. And there weren't very many, good father figures in my life when I was growing up.
Right.
Either. Even though my mother was married, it wasn't necessarily a good situation. Right. And so for me, I took away a lot of things. Like I'm never going to be able to give a man that much power in my life. Right. That I'm always going to be the one on top. I'm going to be the alpha in the relationship because I'm not going to give him the room. Right. To do to me what happened to me as a child. Like, all right, I had no power there. I had no power because I was a child, but as an adult, I'll be damned. And that destructive mindset permeated a lot of my relationships and ultimately ruined them. Right. Yeah. Because I'm like, man, listen, nah, you can't do that. You want to know how much I make? You want to blend our money? Hell no. You got yours, I got mine. Like it took me a long time to figure out that the king's crown does not belong on my head.
Right.
You know what it is? It especially with single mothers and girls, they don't actually teach them to be wives and mothers, but to survive. In case this is what it is, you're taught to be a survivor. So at times it's just weird that. And that's the attitude or the energy that's really given. So even if that guy comes around, even in adulthood, it's the same thing. Like, a man might want to come in and say, let me do that. Oh, no, I ain't gonna let you do that. For instance, I could ask y'all two right now, would y'all move in with a man?
Huh? Talking crazy,
right? Do you trust a man enough to say, "I got this"? You need to come here. 90% of the women and that is going to say, "Hell no."
With a safety net in place.
But as I stated earlier, that again has to do with healing. See, if you heal up, all of those things don't come into play. We live in traumas and triggers. We don't live in any other way now. We live in traumas and triggers. And because we live in traumas and triggers, the smallest thing, you resort back to the 13-year-old you, the 17-year-old you, the 23-year-old you, or whatever the case may be. So that's traumas and triggers. And that's why I said, after you get out of a situation, you got to go back and look good and hard at every bit of that situation and go, what things really worked and what things didn't. We don't do that. What we do is we jump into something new. We take the same energy to Shay's point. Is one of the real misnomers, and they did this on purpose. This speaks to what you were talking about, Rob. It's not that, and I always say this, there's not that there isn't models for us to look for. Because Mr. Smith down the block, who lived in apartment 6B, if he lived in the projects, he was a nice guy. He took care of his family. He went to work every day. He did what he was supposed to do. But you wasn't looking at Mr. Rob.
Exactly.
You was looking at crazy ass Tyrone, who was in apartment 11B, who was wilding out.
Who had girls?
But this is what I mean. And this is what I mean about programming, models, and things that we see not only as children, but even as we see as an adult. But the real issue is no matter when you see these things and at what levels, you have to go back and do self-assessment. One of the toughest things that it is for any of us to do as men and women is to take a good hard look at ourselves. You're right. I say this more so than any other thing that I say on any live that I've been on. There's no truer words than you can't hide from yourself. So many of us are trying to hide from that. And it's because of all of the, multiple things that have happened in our lives, good, bad, indifferent. But when you start to really unpack that, there is nothing that can mess with you. After you've unpacked that, you become so free, you become so easy to get along with and see the, forest before the trees and all the other things that you're supposed to be doing on a normal basis. But you gotta take the moment and look at yourself and then go, okay, what do I need to fix? Because I spend so much of my time watching all this when I get on these lives. It's her fault, it's his fault, and it's their fault. It's your
here's
fault.
The thing. Let me say this. I didn't know that anything was wrong with how I was reacting in those relationships because I was only really springboarding from what was happening in my household. And my mother was doing her best to make sure that the children were okay. And for me, that was my stance as a mother. So I didn't even realize that I needed to fix anything. So that was part of it, right? I didn't get her until I got beat upside the head a few times.
Right. The thing is, too, I mean,
from single mothers, though. From single, that point right there, what he just made.
When you do self-assessment, what I love about self-assessment, you're always able to forgive and move on. You don't hold it because you realize what role you might have played in a situation. And then you can say, you know what, well, if I did that, then this was this, then I could forgive this situation. And once you really forgive, you actually, your life, you got a load that's because who wants that? Who wants to harbor feelings or animosity? You get up in the morning because you're mad. I don't want to be mad at nobody. It's too much energy. No. And I'm too old.
I was afraid. It wasn't anger. It was fear.
Yeah.
I have a question. So with these nice guys who not getting any play, do we think that maybe those nice guys can turn into those disrespectful men that now have a hatred towards women, or well, hatred is a strong word, but a dislike towards women because they were rejected and then they turn into those disrespectful men, which is the topic of the show. But before you answer, so let me just introduce the topic. So we are talking about disrespect. Wait, this is when I miss Ronald because, man, this is a really important job raised by single mothers. This is So that is today's topic. So what do you guys think about that?
Well, first off, I'd like to say I think that you have, definitely a valid point. I think sometimes when good guys or nice guys are seemingly feel they're mistreated or misunderstood, in the early stages of the process, it can turn them into the guys that supposedly, we think that you guys want. The real issue and the real problem for that, though, is sometimes, once you turn a good guy back, he may never come back. So that's a slippery slope. I mean, and the same, for ladies, if we're gonna be honest. So
Absolutely.
I always, try to tell people that you have to point, and this is why I said it's so important to do a self-assessment and know where your moral compass is. Stay true to yourself. One of the things that I found, and I could be, on here with you guys and say this. I remember being, again, like I said, that nice guy and so forth and so on, and didn't get this girl or that girl. And now 54, I'll be 54 in a couple of days or whatever, a couple of weeks. And and I always smile because now those same young ladies are like, oh, I'm like, where was you at 81, 82,
Yeah.
86? When I needed this reassurance, I needed it then. I'm not saying that that men and women don't need reassurance now, because it's all an ongoing process. But what I'm saying is, you grow into the same person who you always was. It's just you were afraid to really step into those shoes at such an early stage in your development, because there was the stigma and the stuff that went along with it that made you feel uncomfortable. And that's why I said, hopefully as you get older, and if you're smart enough, you understand that all you're doing is stepping into your true self. At the very least, is becoming the you that you were always supposed to be and share with the world. And that's why I said, if I could give that young man any thing, I'd just say, stay the course, homie, because you're going to find out down the line that being a nice guy, being, true to yourself, is going to pay off in the long run. It's going, you're going to hit some bumps in the road and all that. But at the very end, you'll be thankful that you continue to be you, versus allowing the world to change.
I love that advice.
And he's probably like, when?
Right? Like, I'm so tired of being alone. I'm so tired on my own. But look, and we were talking about this as well. Like, where do these very disrespectful men come from that, come from single mothers and things like that? And then here they are. I mean, the horrors that I hear sometimes in the street, right? And more so than that, it's the men that are standing beside them that validates that kind of behavior that just blows me away. Like, why aren't you holding your men accountable that are beside you?
And also, to add to that, before you guys answer, as far as being raised by a single mother, being raised by a single mother, how is that impacting those men to turn into those disrespectful men towards women? Because you hear women say, how can you be so disrespectful to a woman and you were raised by a Black queen, or just a queen, or a woman in general? So what do you guys think about that?
Well, personally, I think that there's some, there's always layers to everything. But I think one of the real misnomers about that dynamic for our people in general is this. Yes, you're raised by a single mom. You, in your mind, think to yourself, mom is Superwoman, because she's the only person who you see on a daily basis going through the processes. This is something that a realization I came to, again, like I said, this is only because I'm older now. One of the things that we don't do a good enough job of is looking at our parents through our eyes now and realizing where they were then. So, for instance, like I said, I'm 54 years old. I got a beautiful daughter who's going to be 30 this year. My other daughter is going to be 18. I got 2 grandchildren. But sometimes in my mind now, I got to look and think to myself, when my mother and father were the same age that I am. And I'm going, wow, they had 5 kids. And we lived in an apartment. And so the pressures and the things that they had to deal with, I never looked at it and thought to myself, wow, my parents were being as humane as they could be, and dealing with what they were dealing with to the best of their ability and the best of the information that they had available to them at that time. Yes. So one of the true misnomers that we do, again, is parents, as sons and daughters, is we don't look at our parents through human eyes. We just think to ourselves, they super people and nothing can hurt them. They don't cry, they don't hurt, they don't have any of these, anxieties and things, the same stuff that we go through. But the reality of it all is they do. And I think if that was something that was taken more into consideration, I think we would have less of what we're seeing in terms of, like you said, the disrespectfulness, and in terms of, just understanding, like, again, mom's doing the best that she can. But the biggest thing, and this is, something that always hurts me, is there is a lot of stuff that we are dealing with that is by design, that whether we acknowledge it or don't acknowledge it, that plays a major role as well. And that's everything from having taken, the fathers out of the home, whether it have been, through saying that they were going to give aid, to everything to incarcerating, some dads and uncles and so forth and so on. So all of these things factor in. So when you don't have, and, I love all of my mothers, and I always go to battle. I kid you not, every year when I see this, Father's Day comes and mothers, well, I should get Father's Day. No, you shouldn't, because you're not a father. Bless your heart.
I know Rashay feels very strongly about that also.
Yes.
You're doing and here's my thing, you're doing a great job as a mom. So I'm never going to take that away from you. And let's be clear, mothers are the custodial parent anyway. Dad's jobs are to protect, lay down discipline, and do what we can to make sure resources and things are in the home. That is predominantly what our jobs are.
Right.
Now, with that having been said, where we go wrong is, like I said, there's new energy that has been introduced to the world that tells women, I don't need a man, I'm a boss, and all of these things. There is male energy that goes along with that. And I say this all the time because, again, this is something that I'm just noticing. There's nothing wrong with you. In the case of Shed, she said, being an alpha female, it's nothing. But I always say this. I don't know any dude who wants to date another dude unless you're in that lifestyle. Right. So I need you to be a woman and be feminine, because that's what guys are attracted to. Mm-hmm. Unless, like I said, they're in an alternative lifestyle. And same for a woman. Unless you're in an alternative lifestyle, you do not want to. So what are we doing? So why are we having this tug of war when we can clearly go, you know what, let me tone myself down. Let me calm down here. Right. Let me figure out how we can, again, come together and, help each other, versus this combative thing where, I come to blows with you I don't want to do that. That's too much.
I don't want to do that either.
I'm tired.
But I think the disrespect comes from the first question we started with the let me ask my cuz is the good girls liking bad guys. The good guy never get none. And the thing is, and the issue is that still carries on. You understand? Mm-hmm. Because when you have the independence, like I know so many females that are with literally morons. And I'm sitting there like, what does this dude have to keep doing to you to understand? But you don't turn around and you still allow this man to come in and out of your life. But I realized why women tolerate disrespect, because when I brought the show up, I really thought about a lot of things after the production meeting. I think a lot of women do it because the disrespectful men actually gives the woman the freedom to actually do what they want to do. And what I mean by that means they don't want a man living with them. They don't want to live with no man. They want to keep their money. They don't want to share their money. They don't want to do any of this. So only thing that you're going to attract by doing that is creeps, because you have to grow. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to get somebody to grow. So if the goal is really, if you want to do things like move on, buy a home with a guy, do this, merge bank accounts, do all of this stuff, you have to have, that kind of man. But being that a lot of women don't want to partake in that, they want to keep their own money, their own apartments, then do this and take care of this, then that's a lot of the times why you really with that disrespectful guy.
Okay, but I have a question. Okay, so as far as the women choosing those disrespectful men and being with them, what contributes to their disrespect? Why are they like that?
Because y'all like
it.
Because we like it.
No, not y'all. I'm not going to say
not you.
Not you.
Well, okay, but listen, yes, I can agree with you to some. I mean, do they like it, or is it what they used to, or whatever the case may be? But they end up with those guys. But those guys are accountable for their own actions. what is contributing to them being disrespectful men. And I always look at the fact that if you were raised, again, I'm gonna go back to that. If you were raised by a woman, how can you disrespect a woman? Where's that coming from?
But again,
We-
like
Let's talk about that.
I believe that at some point that these guys, and that's a good question, but at some point these guys, they can't really get through to a woman, and sometimes that's the kind of behavior that y'all want. So
what you're saying is that it's our fault.
I'm not going to say it's your fault. I just believe that not you in general, but that's
No, not me in general, but it's the woman's fault why they're like that.
Okay, so the goal is right. So nobody really wants to be alone, right? So you're a dater, right? Me, I'm a serial dater, or I date. So the thing is that I date because when I see crazy stuff like this come on, it's easy for me to move on. You understand what I'm saying? The thing is that people, they just get stuck in certain ways and they stay there. It could be anything. It could be a woman frustrating a man frustrating a woman. Pressure bust pipes in relationships at times.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you gotta go and you don't go. You stay there,
Okay.
and it becomes more disrespect. The disrespect comes on more. But it to me, it comes from people not setting boundaries and allowing people to do certain things. If you don't allow it, it won't happen.
You're right.
Okay.
You're right. I agree. I
with
agree.
that.
But they're still going to be disrespectful whether or not we allow them to be that. So
and
they're that man no matter what.
But I think you also have to factor in, first of all, Rob makes a great point, but like I said, you got that, you got healing. And then I think the third thing that, we don't talk about enough anymore is because the family is so fractured. And by that, I simply mean we aren't in the same space that we were when we were kids and our parents were in control. So I don't know about y'all, but I know I had to go to see grandma every weekend or every other weekend. It was one grandma or the other grandma, it was alternating weekends, but you had to go see grandma. And I bring that to the table because what happens is when you went to see grandma, then you got to see your uncles and you got to see, so forth and so on. And you realize that, wait a minute, I got some uncles who might be some street cats. And, if I'm acting out of line or whatever, they call you in the back room. Hey, I heard you've been doing some stuff there, bro. It's like, what's going on? So because we don't necessarily have, that factoring in some cases, you also have the disrespect because of that. Because I know for a fact there was plenty of days that my father made trips to go see the boyfriends and or the men and certain cousins and whatever lives, and there was some roughing up and everything got straightened out. And we just, you understand what I'm saying? So because we don't necessarily have that as much as we used to in the past, that's another thing. And then I think one of the biggest things is this. There is a weird disconnect between the youth and the elders. Unlike like I said, when we were coming up. And even for me now, I'd say this to people all the time. I don't care if you're a year older than me, 2 years, whatever, you're older than me, which means you've been here a little bit longer. You may know something a little bit more than I do. But I find that when you talk to today's youth, everything is OG or whatever, or auntie, or whatever. And they act as though you being here 4 decades or 5 decades or 6 decades doesn't mean something. I'm like, look, you got 2, maybe 3 decades under your belt. Calm down. You got a ways to go.
Right. The ego.
And I think that because of that, then we have this weird, duality where they say, well, to your point, I don't want to, end up like my mother and my father did and this and that and the third. Look, there was a lot of things that possibly did go wrong with your mother and your father. However, they made sure you were kind of okay. I always tell people this. One of the things that I struggle with, especially our generation is, we give our kids everything. I'm like, why y'all giving these kids everything? They need to learn how to struggle for some shit too. I'm sorry for cursing, but they need to learn how to struggle. I said, because if you don't teach these kids or give these kids the opportunity to learn some stuff for themselves and on their own, then what are we teaching them? Because that's technically what we had to do. Now, do I mean that you have to totally abandon your kids? No. But to give them everything, to always solve their problems, no, you're going to have to sit down and bump your head and then figure some stuff out. Why? Because any of the 4 of us in these squares, unfortunately, tomorrow we could not wake up. And if you've been doing everything for your kids, what they going to do? I'll wait.
It's a handicap.
So, I stress that, as well. Like I said, there's just, so many things that factor into a lot of what we're faced with because of our ideologies, some old that we still think work. You know, we got ideologies from '78 that we still using. We in 2023, y'all. They're not even close to working now.
Put it to bed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it can also be too young men coming up with mothers that are just out of control, and they
There's a lot of that.
they don't have the they don't even respect their mothers.
Yeah,
How they gonna respect?
there you
See,
go.
my thing is that I tell everybody, look at how, like I would tell my daughter, look at how a man treats his mother.
Absolutely.
And you got to look at the
Absolutely.
relationship with the mother. Not to disrespect the mothers that are out there. Y'all done the best that y'all can do, but some of y'all had done some things, and
Right.
It's
like
true.
I said, I'm a serial dater, and I've been in a couple situations. And if I say, baby girl, listen, this ain't right, chill in here, then it ain't right. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want no big ass 6'6" nigga knocking me in my head, like, you know what I'm saying. So it could be to the thing where you do got to understand that the energy that you put out towards your kids, you understand is the energy
It
that
matters.
you're gonna get back, and I think that
Absolutely.
plays a lot into it as well.
And I know
was raised.
for our generation, at least I know I can speak for us, like we weren't the parents that were in the clubs. It just wasn't a thing when I was a parent. Like, when I was 20 something, there were clubs out there, but it was just no way. Like, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have all that stuff to be able to
Right.
manage that kind of lifestyle. But now, there's a whole nother generation that having kids very young and still want that lifestyle where, for me, my mother was like, okay, you're a mother. That's it for you. You you got to stay home. I'll babysit sometime. But
And they better
baby,
be
you
sweet.
are a mother. Right. Put them to bed. And when you're done, come back here. Because when they wake up, you making breakfast.
You better
right?
be here.
But
That's
this
right.
new generation, right? The kids, they coming together, putting the kids all with one person to watch all the kids. And the posse is out in the street and doing their thing. And
Or
so
they doing it in front of the kids, because now they get together at each other's houses and drink and smoke and do all kind of foolishness right in
have the
front of the
kids up
kids.
late at night. Right. And I'm a
Yes.
firm believer that kids survive under structure. Like, they thrive under
Absolutely.
structure. And oftentimes they don't have that. And so these are the young men, these are the women that
turn
young
into that.
women that come up, and like I feel like the makeup and everything else that these kids are like, they're over sexualized at a very young age.
Yes.
Like, I couldn't even get a little tiny heel on my jellies when I was a kid. My mother was like, where do you think you're going?
And when we got a chance to wear a little heel on Easter, it
On
was like,
Easter.
wow.
Right.
It was like the best thing ever.
It's bad now. The kids don't even get dressed up on Easter.
They don't.
These children on Easter, it's like Halloween.
That means we got to talk about the breakdown of the church as well, if we get into that whole subject.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other show.
I'm just talking about the days on where you're supposed to get dressed up, and it's like times is really, really changing. Women with multiple men. That's another thing. Like me, I don't really, and my kids is grown. My son he'll be 15. It's the same thing. No, you ain't meeting my kids. You understand?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah,
they're grown. So when I'm out there dating, no, I don't want to meet your son. We ain't there yet. We'll probably never get there. But I'm just saying, I don't want to meet you or your children. We ain't here for that.
And it's not, and they're ready to meet. They want you to meet them kids early. I mean, it took me a long time. My kids will be like, if I meet somebody, I know that this is somebody my mother's
exactly
gonna be with for real. Like, this is not just no random.
But y'all hit the nail on the head. The difference is it's a different time. People aren't as guarded as they could and as they should be. One of the things that I always thank my mom to this day for is the way she guarded us. She didn't believe in spending the night over friends' houses and all that kind of, foolishness. And, I'm sure you guys have all heard or have horror stories with your friends who, I was over, such and such, and there was his big brother, little sister, whatever, and, craziness happened. But I think, Shez, you said something that was important. I think one of the other things that we're up against, and that's why I said earlier, with the advent of all of these apps, we are fighting a losing battle because the information that is readily available. See, back in our day, all we had was Encyclopedia Britannica or some format of that. There was
The
no pictures.
library.
There was no, you couldn't, there was nothing to get from that. Now every day, if you're on TikTok, there's some new dance challenge and people are scantily clad. And I just say this because, and again, this is no disrespect to anybody, but the fact that everything from you being able to, the wig thing is one of the things that I just smile about. I'm not mad at anybody who wears wigs, but I always laugh because I
I
remember
know you playing.
wigs. No, because I know wigs in my day, that was regulated to your godmother or your grandmother or something like that. But I see
Yeah.
young ladies is in the, like 12, 13. Y'all used to have, when you was a little girl, you used to have beads and barrettes. These little girls got weaves at 9. Like, why does she got a weave at 9?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
If her hair's not growing strong, then you need to, comb it properly, grease it, and do all the things that it's supposed to do to make it strong. That's my point. You couple that with then the fun videos that I'm sure y'all have come across where it's a guy look just like me, and then he put his hand in front of the screen and he comes back and he's a girl, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm confused. And
Right.
so what I'm saying is the amount of information that is coming to us and our children in real time is so overwhelming. And because there is no break, and see, one of the things that I always tell people, we had breaks. TV went off at midnight. Remember the flag or the
9 o'clock.
Yes.
went off at 12 o'clock.
Yes.
So that was it. You
TV
didn't
went
get to
off.
do anymore after that.
It was done.
We now have TV 24 hours a day. We now have TV shows looping and and all this kind of stuff. So it's just, and then we don't even want to talk about this. This is just funny to me. Back in the days, and I can tell you this funny story. So we lived in the projects, and you know how you had the tile floors in your apartment.
Yes.
So that, you had to use the machine to buff them and make them real shiny. I remember as a kid, my 2 older brothers, I got 2 older brothers, and I remember they were watching Caligula, and they had their bedroom door locked. But because the floors were so shiny,
Out of Caligula too.
no, but because the floors were so shiny, you could see it off the reflection on the floor. So you're watching it that way. But I bring that up because now you can accidentally put something in on your phone and be like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't, So that's the difference. We didn't have this kind of direct information coming to us in all these various ways.
Yeah.
So the growing up that a lot of these kids are into and doing has to do with the fact that they just have access that we didn't have. Getting to first base was a big thing for us up until you was like 13, 14 years old.
Now, score.
You understand? So that's why I said there's just so much more that is readily available and that these kids are now have access to just based off of so many different things. So as parents, we have to do the best we can, obviously, to police and then do some explaining. I tell everybody, I parent the same way I'm talking to y'all. When my daughters ask me stuff, I'll be telling them, all right, I'm gonna tell you the real story just so you know what this is about. Because it doesn't make sense to make up some, fictitious situation. This is what happened. So this way you know that this is possible. I don't want you to be out here thinking to yourself, oh, no, this is real stories with real, consequences. And I think that if we, learn to, give our kids a little bit more of that and help them understand that decisions that they make have consequences. It might not be immediate, could be down the line, but it most certainly has consequences. And you have to really walk that line, as best you can. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and a lot of things too. With the going back to the respect thing, a lot of men don't communicate, and a lot of women, and this is what I find out too. A lot of women don't appreciate men that want to communicate. You understand what I'm saying? So at times it's like if you can't communicate and talk things out, what happens? You got to get it out some way. You understand?
That goes back to what we were talking about self-reflection. To me, oftentimes they don't know why they're upset about something, right? They something happens and they react to the situation, but don't self-examine to say, why did that bother me so? And why did
Triggers
I,
and traumas.
triggers and traumas, right? And so then there's no communication about it because it becomes action reaction. You're disrespectful to me, I'm going to defend myself. I'm going to be disrespectful to you. So and more so you don't ever do that again to me.
Right.
So then we're just, this is where we're at. We're bumping into each other, hurting each other.
Well, right. That's what I tell you. I appreciate when you serial date, because that's another thing is when if I find a woman that I can't communicate with, it's no, because a woman, I've been in things. What are you talking about? And see all of that. Listen, I'm not ready for all that.
I was gonna
communicate.
say to you, I don't think that it's men and women can't communicate. I do think that it's this. I think that there is communication. I think one of the toughest things that we haven't learned, we're not good at listening because we have traumas and triggers. Anybody ever tell you something, and the minute they say something that triggers you, you want to jump in? It's like double dutch. You can't wait to jump. Calm down. Let me finish my train of thought first, and then you can come back and react. The problem is we've also been programmed to be very, our memory and our ability to think about things is split second now, because again, stuff is coming at us in real time and so fast and so often. And I think that even if you communication does not work if the person then cannot comprehend and apply.
Exactly.
So you can communicate all you want, but as long as they can't comprehend it and then apply it, then it's all for naught.
That's what
talking to the brick wall.
Right. That's what I was telling you about. As soon as you start talking, then see, you're not even comprehending what I'm trying to tell you. So, we're gonna leave this right where you at. What was your address again? Let me just drop you off. How that work out?
Oh my goodness.
So I think that that's a valid point. I mean, you both with the communication thing and the triggers and the traumas. I'm gonna use that one. I like that. Triggers and traumas. I think I lost my train of thought.
Somebody in the chat was just saying that you have to know how to speak their language, right? And that goes back to the onus. And I had a conversation with someone. I know we don't have a lot of time, but who is the onus on? The person that's trying to get the message across, or the person that's receiving it, to make sure that they're hearing the right thing? Because people don't often say, what I think you're saying to me is, right? To even get the clarity, even when you're listening, like you walk away and be like, oh, that mother effer was trying to, because you don't really know.
Because now you're triggered.
Proper question, right?
Because I agree.
You automatically have taken what they said and you filtered it through your own triggers and traumas, right? Came out with a solution, and it has nothing to do with what the person was trying to tell you. And you're not taking the time to say, did you mean to say, or what were you trying to communicate is what I received, and this is what I heard, to be clear. And so there lies another problem, right?
So again, who does it fall on then? Does it fall on the communicator
that was the question,
or the receiver? Who's, I think.
Well,
effectively, I think it falls on both of you.
Yeah, but I think that that people just need to learn how to communicate. I had that issue, and I was very judgmental, but and I was also I used to answer quick. And my thing now is, before when I'm into communication with somebody, it could be business, it could be relationship, it could be anything. What I really do is I give myself 5 seconds before I respond, because maybe I need that time to actually receive the information that you're really trying to tell me, and not be so quick to answer. So you be like, oh, it could be anything. You ugly nigga. Okay, let me just get at a minute. Just call me ugly. Or so I'm just saying, because again, you want to understand, instead of being so quick to answer, give yourself a minute. I tell my kids that all the time. Count to 3 before you respond. You know what I'm saying? Give yourself a minute before you respond, because what you might, in that quick second, you would turn around and you would have a whole nother thought, just because you took a quick second to do that.
I agree with that.
I agree with that as well. And someone in the comments is saying it's pretty much, it's up to the one trying to get the point across to understand how to get the point across. Never assume that anyone knows what you're talking about. Now, that's a valid point, because you can say whatever you're saying. You might take it one way, Rashay might take it one way, and Amir might take it one way. And I'm saying the same exact thing to all of you. Now, how you process it But I also feel like the person who's processing it needs to get clarity if they don't have clarity, instead of being defensive and reacting, because that's when things go crazy.
Right.
And
That's
go
why
left.
you take that time. You take that extra second, that time. Right quick. I told you with my son, he had an issue in school where he got to class late, and the teacher said to him, I'm gonna have to write you up. So he said, go ahead and write me up. So that I asked him, I said, yo, did you find that disrespectful when you really said that? And he said, no, Dad, not at that time. You understand what I'm saying? And then had to really come back. And he said, yes, it was very disrespectful. And I'll go ahead and make it right tomorrow by apologizing. But in that quick second, because you're so quick to answer, you didn't even get the information in to answer properly. So that's why I said we all need to learn how to communicate. Or how does it work for you? How can you communicate for you?
Right. That's what works for you. And the minute if I'm having a conversation with someone and I see that they're getting, if they feel offended, or I'm seeing that they're getting a little agitated, I usually ask them, what did you hear me say?
Right.
What did you hear me say? And then I can know exactly what it is. So I can give you some clarity. That's not what I meant. This is what I meant. So let's move forward, because you can tell immediately for somebody to be acting. You're like, oh, okay, well, I don't know why they're reacting that way. Because all I was trying to say was, and now we don't went left. So I think that's a good practice to kind of understand. I mean, you can only say what you're going to say. Now, you can see how a person's reacting by their look on their face, what they say. Then instead of reacting back to them, get clarity on what they're hearing you say, so you can, make the situation easier. Yeah, that's
absolutely.
I
love that idea. And I hate to be the one to stop us because we're over time. Because this has been a great conversation, right? But we got to stay true to our time. Don't want to hold people, too long. Amir, it's been great having you as part of the show. Like, it's been really good. Absolutely. You've really added a lot of depth to it, and it balanced it out a little bit, because Rashay always feels like he has to defend himself against us because we are forced.
You know what I'm saying?
It's never us against him, though. But
it's never us against him, but he feels we tap into his triggers and traumas clearly.
Amir, where can we find you? What's your handle?
We got a new saying. That's what we use in triggers and traumas.
First and foremost, I want to thank you all. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Shez. Thank you, Rod. Thank you guys for having me on your show. I'm always honored to be on here and have the opportunity to chop it up with you guys and share ideologies. At the bottom there, you got A-Rock Sealy. That's my IG handle. On Facebook, I'm Amir Sealy, AmirSealy, and on Twitter, I'm also Amir Sealy. I can't figure out all these other apps, so those are the only 3 I'm on at this particular time, because that's all I can handle trying to, process, on a normal basis.
And tell them where to check you out on Mondays. You do the motivation.
Okay, on Mondays, I do a show with the comedian talent called Motivational Mondays. It's actually on Facebook. It's on the WEMSradio.com app. So if you go on Facebook and you find that app, you can click on or join the group, and you can see past shows, and you can see the shows coming up. We do that every Monday at 6:00. And then Talent and I, we've been working diligently. We do a show usually on Fridays. It's called the Race Debaters, and that's just an opportunity for us to really give our ideologies about how much we're much more alike than we are different. I know the world wants to pit us all against one another, but we have a lot more similarities than we do have differences. And sometimes we find things like this situation. I heard y'all, talking about the situation with the officer and the young man. I know for a fact that we're probably going to be on at some point this week to talk about that, just because, not only is it a hot button topic, but it's just something that really requires, us unpacking so many things and so many layers. So I'm looking forward to that this week. Matter of fact, tomorrow you can also find me on Real Talk Chronicles with Bill Foster. He's on Facebook. I'm going to be on his show probably on Monday and on Wednesday, 6:00 and 7:00. Yeah, 6 and 7. Okay. So, just making a few rounds this week, just because, like I said, that hot button topic is going to be something that so many of us will really be trying to.
So much about
someone's asking for you to answer the question. I'm not sure which question you're referencing, Jerome.
You know, yeah, I want y'all to tell you, you really got to catch him in talent on that on the Friday thing. Y'all on Instagram with that? Am I correct?
We're on Instagram. Yeah, we're on Instagram with the Friday show, Race Debaters, and
Right.
we're on Facebook, like I said, with the Monday show.
I did catch that, and it was really, really interesting. You made me late for my gig, but I really appreciated it. It was a great show, and I do tune in from time to time. So please make sure.
Yeah, me too.
You
I definitely check them out.
It's very informative.
Appreciate you guys.
I'm not sure what your question Jerome was talking about.
I don't either.
If he can,
because I know we kind of went, around and around, and it kept moving.
Right.
So we did have that. We didn't mention where we're located, so we needed to mention that as well, right?
You guys can check us out on
Twitch, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, and iHeartRadio.
And go follow us on Instagram.
Amir, this is your second time on the show.
Yes, he's a friend to the show.
Not your last.
It won't be your last for sure.
Thank you. Thank you for everything.
My brother, anytime, come kick it with me, son.
Like I said,
but Amir, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Till next time.
Yes.
All right.
That was a great show. Great.
Great.
I love to get other perspectives, and Rashay always seems to think that it's us against him, and that we against him, but we're not.
No, it's okay.
You are our male perspective, so it's always good to get it. Since it's two of us, it's always to get two male perspectives.
Yeah, but it's just a lot of feminine energy sometimes. You know what I'm saying? I just felt I could woo-side tonight. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, listen to
my
you.
My shoulders wasn't as heavy.
You felt like the weight was all on you?
Hey, shout out to the boy on the couch.
Yes.
The guy on the couch. How's those Niners, Ronald?
We miss you, man. When are you coming back?
Yes, sir. But I really enjoyed
it. And shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles for winning. They're going to the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. I don't think Ronald's
congrats to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Ronald's not as happy.
That's okay. I'm sorry. I know. But as you guys know, we end every show with a quote. And the quote tonight is, respect people's feelings, even if it doesn't mean anything to you. It could mean everything to them.
Hey.
I love it.
We will see you guys next week. Peace and love.
Good night, everyone.